Okay, YouTube says you're live. Let's see if I'm live indeed. Today I tried to live stream twice and it was not working because I was using OBS and apparently my OBS doesn't work properly with YouTube. But nonetheless, now we're finally here. So hello YouTube once again. It's good to be back. And well, today I would like to not only answer questions, or you might have questions, and I welcome you to ask questions in the comments, but also would like to share with you what happened over the course of the last 2 years or so. So, um, yeah, about 2 years ago, I was living in Thailand. I was in Chiang Mai, and something tragic happened. Well, maybe I shouldn't use the word tragic, but well, I went with some friends to sushi place. I had a salmon and I got food poisoning. But it was not the first time. Back in the day, Jan and I we spent 3 months in Morocco, and unfortunately, the food there was not super clean, so I got food poisoning several times during our stay in in Morocco. Now, I see that people are coming in, but I want to double check if I am live. How can I see if I'm live or not? Because I see here one comment, but I guess I saw this comment even before I started. So if you guys could just write a comment to make sure that I am live, I would appreciate so that I can continue. Um, because here I haven't used YouTube in such a long time that I. Yes, okay, thank you. Yes, okay. Let's continue. You're live, so we can continue. Yeah, so I went with some friends to the sushi place, and I had a salmon, and I got food poisoning. But yeah, as I was saying, it was not the first time, so I thought that was just something that would be over after a couple of days. And well, 1 week passed, and then 2 weeks, 2 months, 3 months. And I started wondering, yeah, is it going to be over at some point or not? So I went to see several doctors. I did a number of tests. I did some blood work, you name it. And the doctors in Thailand were puzzled. They couldn't figure this out. They didn't know what was happening. Um, I got really depressed because I was about to start this challenge to get 20 languages to a B1 level, and obviously I had to give up on this challenge. And not only that, I stopped working, I stopped studying, I stopped uh, exercising. Even sitting was extremely uncomfortable because I would have these very intense stomach aches and chest pain. So yeah, it was horrible, and it was getting worse and worse. So I got extremely depressed. Um, doctors could only prescribe me uh, antidepressants instead of helping me out. They thought it was psychological, and I bought into that. I also thought it was psychological, that it was stress. But then I'm looking back. Even back then, I thought, yeah, but how can this be psychological? How can this be stress? I mean, I'm not stressed at all. I mean, the only thing causing me stress now is feeling pain, is having this very intense stomach aches and chest pain, and this burning sensation here all the time, 24/7. So the final diagnosis was gastritis. So like they had no idea what it was, so they just say, yeah, you probably have gastritis and GERD, like reflux. Um, and well, the situation was only getting worse and worse. And then I started thinking about what else I could do. So I even went to a doctor who told me that it could be a tumor, which obviously was extremely not even bad news, but yeah, was very hard to process. You know, like tumor, what the heck, right? And to make a very long story short, because today I would like to talk about languages, I would like to talk about language learning. I don't wouldn't like to talk about diseases. But yeah, just wanted to share with you guys why I disappeared for so long. And I really appreciate that many of you sent me private messages and reached out to me to find out what's going on. I really appreciate that. But for those of you who don't know, yeah, this is what happened. Um, so after 1 year, you know, trying different diets. I think I've probably read about all the diets out there, even the carnivore diet, and I've tried so many different diets, and also um, lots and lots of different medication for the stomach. But the situation was only getting worse. So again, to make a very long story short, a good friend of mine from Novosibirsk told me that, you know what, Lucas, if you come to Russia, I know one of the best doctors in the world, so and I'm sure she'll be able to help you out. And you know, that was earlier this year. That was in January, December last year, January, now 2021. And I was thinking, yeah, go to Russia. Does that make any sense? You know, like the numbers, the number of cases, the number of COVID cases in Russia was going through the roof. And back then, staying in Thailand was really safe because you know even in the city where I was living in Chiang Mai, we didn't have any cases whatsoever, like zero cases. So I thought, well, going now to Russia, it's minus 30 degrees. I don't know anyone that city apart from my student. So does that make any sense? Maybe I should just go back to Brazil. And I'm glad I went there because you know and then I started talking to people, um, and I started thinking about the pros and cons of doing that or going back to Brazil or even going to some other country because in January I thought, well, I've been struggling with this thing for a year now, and it doesn't seem like I will be able to solve this problem here in Thailand, so I should probably go to another place, and that's what I did. I started talking to people, and I had a neighbor from the U.S., and he told me it was a nice guy. He was uh, 82 years old, and he told me, "You know what, Lucas? I've lived in many countries. I've been to I've worked in South Korea, Japan. I spent many years in Germany, in France, and now I live here in Thailand. Well, obviously, I also spent quite a lot of time in the US. And good doctors are rare no matter where you go. So if you have found someone you trust, then you should definitely go there and see this doctor. And so I had a an online consultation with her, and I was amazed after the first time I talked to her. I was uh, pretty confident that she would be able to help me out because well we talked for over 3 hours, and you know like going to the hospital here in Brazil or in Thailand usually it's a 5 minute thing, and this doctor really took the time to sit down and listen to all the complaints I had, and I had the feeling that I was not just talking to a regular doctor, but I was talking to a scientist who really wanted to know um, what was going on, what the problem was. So after the first consultation, at the first time I talked to her, she knew more about me than all the other doctors in Thailand combined. And after that first conversation, I felt pretty confident that the right move was to go ahead and travel to Russia. Now, I think I could spend an hour just sharing with you how difficult it was to get into Russia because Russia was closed. Well, I think Russia is still closed now. So getting to Russia was, yeah, was extremely difficult, and maybe some other time I can share with you guys how I managed to to get into Russia. And well, that story involved me having to speak three languages in the Russian embassy in Thailand. I had to speak Italian, Thai, and Russian. But I guess this is a story for some other time. But yeah, eventually I managed to go to Russia, and after 1 month doing lots and lots of tests, I think I did over 40 tests in 1 month, and then when the doctors and I was not only talking to that doctor um, uh, that I initially started talking with, but also with many other specialists. Yeah, I was really lucky to uh, not only to go to Russia, but to know all these specialists that were trying really hard to figure out what I had. And well, they found that the problem was not stress. It was uh, it was a parasite. It was a very aggressive parasite that managed to get into my liver. And yeah, it basically destroyed my liver and all my digestive system. You know, at times I would spend like 10 days or even up to 2 weeks without going to the toilet. It was terrible. And when they found the parasite, um, which well apparently I got in when I had that salmon in Thailand in Chiang Mai. They told me, well, there is no guarantee that after the treatment you will be parasite free. One, we can do some sort of chemo to kill off the parasites. And this treatment is it's as they told me, it's a treatment that you can only do 3 times in a lifetime because well, it's basically poison, right? It's extremely dangerous, and but I said, yeah, I mean, I obviously want to do that. I can't live like this anymore. Like this constant pain. So yeah, I did the treatment, and it was not easy. Uh, and well, again, because it was a very potent poison, it disrupts my liver, my digestive system. So now I'm still recovering, and now it's been about, so I did that in May, so now June, well, October, right? So it's been 5 months, and I'm far from being 100%. I don't feel 100%. I still feel uh, uh, pain almost 24/7. But at least, well, as you can see, I can sit, which is great. I couldn't do that bit earlier this year, and yeah, I've been feeling a lot better than I was feeling last year. So um, I hope and I guess that things will only get better and better with time. Now I'm following very strict diet. I managed to restart working out, which is great. Um, um, I don't have suicidal thoughts anymore because well, last year I had a lot of those thoughts, and I'm really happy to be back here on YouTube. I even thought, yeah, maybe I should wait until I feel I don't know, 80%, 90%, but I don't know when it's going to happen, and I don't want to wait until I feel 80%, 90%. And last week I watched a video by Ikena. He's another content creator here on YouTube, and yeah, unfortunately, he also has a condition that prevents him from, you know, living a normal life. Maybe, well, who am I to, to say whether he can live a normal life or not? But in any way, I felt really, uh, I I found it very inspirational to see that although he has this condition, he has not stopped creating content for you guys for YouTube. So I thought, you know what, I won't wait until I feel okay, because I mean I know that's going to take a while to feel 100% like 2 years ago, but I wanted to feel at least, I don't know, 80%, but I don't want to wait. I just wanted to get back to creating content here for YouTube. So I've been talking about this sad story for 15 minutes, but now I would like to move on to, yeah, to what we all like, which is language learning, right? So, oh yeah, I see here. Hi, Lucas. I'm from Brazil. Hello. Maybe I should also speak some Portuguese here. Bom dia a todos do Brasil. Uh, well, not only from Brazil, right? So, hola a todos que hablan español. Vielleicht können wir später auch auf Deutsch sprechen, ou peut-être en français, italiano. Возможно, мы можем еще говорить по-русски, так как я, как мое лечение было в России. And yeah, so I would like to know from you guys what you have been doing in terms of language learning. What's uh, what's new from my side? Yeah, as I said, I had this ridiculous plan uh, to get 20 languages to a B1 level, and because of what I just told you, I had to give up on that plan. But now I have the motivation to keep learning languages or restart studying languages. And there's also something that I would like to share with you here on YouTube. Um, First of all, I would like to uh, get back into speaking some of those languages that I could hold a conversation 2 years ago. I felt pretty confident for speaking those languages, languages like German, like French, Italian, Polish, Finnish. But these are languages that I haven't spoken for such a long time. And unfortunately, with languages, if you don't practice them, you lose them very quickly. Uh, So I think that for many people who have studied multiple languages, the problem is not achieving a B1, B2, C1 level, but retaining that knowledge, that skill in a in the long run. Um, if especially if you stop using that language, you can start forgetting very. And oh, there's a message here from Linguify. Hi, Lucas and Raul. Wow, Andy Roberts. It's really good to see you here. I recently completed Vocab Booster German and started Indonesian. Wow, amazing, amazing. Yes, it's so nice to see you here because I remember that if I'm not mistaken, you, yeah, no, I'm sure, I'm pretty confident that you were the very first guy who tried out Vocab Booster. So I'm glad to see you here. Yeah. So how's it going with your German? How's it going with your um, yeah, and now you're going to start Indonesian. So what motivates you to study Indonesian? And I see here, Vitor, salve Lucas, salve Vitor, tudo bom? Como vai? E você, Vitor, quais são as línguas que você está aprendendo ou tem vontade de aprender? Initially, I wanted to do this in English, but yeah, if you guys want to ask questions in other languages, I'm happy to speak other languages as well. Uh, Most of them are pretty rusty at this point, but yeah, I guess this will be a very good opportunity to start reusing some of them. Do you speak Spanish? Sí, hablo español. Sí, hablo español. Es que cuando yo vivía en Chiang Mai, tenía dos amigos de Madrid, Ana y Dani. Bueno, es que hicimos unos proyectos juntos. Aquí en YouTube hay también algunos vídeos con ellos. Y nada, es que he hablado con ellos todos los días, entonces sí, hablo español. Ah, como manter muitas línguas, Éder, exatamente, é o que eu estava dizendo, esse é o grande problema, né? Às vezes, o problema não é aprender ah, uma determinada língua até um determinado nível, o problema é manter todas essas línguas. E eu acredito que existe apenas uma maneira de manter muitas línguas e você tem que usar essas línguas. Uma coisa que me ajudou muito no ano passado, quando eu tive esse problema de saúde, como eu não podia ficar sentado, acho que no ano passado eu estava andando 30 quilômetros por dia. E o que eu fazia era escutar podcasts. Então, no ano passado eu ouvi muitos podcasts. Eu estava escutando muitos podcasts em russo, então eu acho que eu ah, evolui mais no meu russo na Tailândia do que na própria Rússia, porque quando eu estava na Tailândia eu ouvia russo o tempo todo. Maybe I should also translate back into English what I'm saying in other language so that you guys don't get lost. So I got asked how do you keep so many languages? How do you keep many languages? How do you maintain so many languages? And as I was saying prior to that, unfortunately, after I got sick, I was not really into maintaining languages. I was in a different mindset, and but at the same time, when in Thailand, when I couldn't even sit, and because I couldn't even sit, I would take very long walks every day, it's like 30 kilometers a day, and sometimes I would listen to music, but sometimes I would listen to podcasts. And I think that listening to podcasts is probably the most effective way to maintain languages because it's a very easy activity to engage with. You don't. I mean, obviously, reading books, watching Netflix, all those things are also extremely valuable. Or also speaking, of course, all these activities are very helpful as far as maintaining languages uh, is concerned. But in order to do that, you have to plan, right? You have to sit down and dedicate your undivided attention to that activity. But listening to podcasts is really easy, right? You can do it while you're doing something else. In my case, as I was walking around town, I would listen to podcasts, and I started listening to a podcast called now what is the name of the podcast? It was a Russian one. Radio Mayak. Here we go, Radio Mayak, and I think yeah, that was in Thailand, right? And I was listening to it every day, and I think that that was more helpful to my Russian than going to Russia because when I went to Russia, yeah, of course I was speaking Russian, but I think that I spent more hours a day with Russian back in Thailand than when I was uh, in Russia. So yeah, definitely listening to podcasts is a great way to maintain languages. One of my goals with German is to try out a variety of beginner course and methods, some of which are out of print and all available on audio. Okay, yeah, that's great. That's also what I've been doing over the last 10 years, testing out different courses and methods and trying to figure out what is the best way to uh, tackle a language, what is the best way to start studying a language and achieve, you know, fluency. But um, when I use the word fluency, I need to be cautious, right? Because in different languages, the word fluency and being fluent or fluidity, yeah, all these terms they mean different things. But yeah, my over the last 10 years, I've been trying to figure out what is the most effective way to go from zero, from scratch, when you can't um, say anything, up to the point where you can not only ask where the bathroom is, but also, interact with people in a social environment for, like an hour and without having the person to switch to English, for example. So yeah, let's see here. No te confundes con el español y el portugués porque son muy parecidas. Claro, claro, claro que me confundo. En realidad, puedes decirme, o sea, estoy confundiendo ahora. Pero es que, sí, cuando tienes idiomas que son muy parecidos, como por ejemplo el portugués y el español, o como por ejemplo, después de estudiar ruso, también estudié un poco de ucraniano en Lviv, es que la regla que uso es cuando aprendo una palabra claro que con español, portugués, es un poco más difícil de hacer esta comparación, pero cuando estaba aprendiendo otros idiomas eslavos, es que no solo estudié el ruso, pero también el polaco, después del búlgaro. Lo que hacía es que siempre que aprendía una palabra, me preguntaba, ¿es que ya sé cómo decir esta palabra en ruso? Porque si no lo sabía, siempre verificaba para estar cierto que no iba a mezclar los idiomas. Es que con el español es un poco más difícil porque el portugués es mi idioma nativo, entonces es un poco más complicado mantener estos dos idiomas separados, completamente separados. Am, pero sí, es que normalmente lo que hago es preguntarme si conozco aquella palabra en otros idiomas antes, en los idiomas que son parecidos, antes de memorizar aquella palabra en el idioma nuevo que estoy estudiando. Well, let me just translate back into English. So, Carlos asked, "Don't you mix up Portuguese and Spanish?" And I said, "Yeah, because they are very similar." And I said, "Yes, that's indeed a problem. You know, when you have languages that are similar, it's very hard to keep them apart. And what I usually do to make sure that I'm not mixing up languages is to make sure that I do know all the words that I'm learning in the second language in the first language. So when I started learning Ukrainian, I had a very strict rule. I would only learn words in Ukrainian that I already knew in Russian. So because yeah, Ukrainian and Russian are very similar, so I wanted to make sure that to avoid mixing them up, I wanted to make sure that I knew how to say all those words in my first language or in my first Slavic language. So yeah, I'm a big fan of language stacking. You know, like using one language, using one foreign language to learn a third language and compare the two. So I think that helps in terms of not confusing them. I know that some people try to, like if they, let's say they speak English and they have studied, let's say Spanish, and now they want to learn Italian, and what they do is they avoid Spanish because they don't want to mix it up with Italian. And I think that's a big mistake. If you don't want to mix them up, you have to make sure that you feed your brain with both languages at the same time, so that your brain understands. Oh, these are two different things, because otherwise it might think that the previous language was a mistake, was an error, and now it has to override it with the new language you're learning. So there's that. So usually no. For instance, if I come across a new word in the language that I'm studying, let's say I don't know, uh, let's say that I want to learn um, Hungarian, and I just came across the word neighbor. I'll ask myself, okay, do I know how to say neighbor in Portuguese? Yes, vizinho. Okay, what about Russian? So I said, okay, what about Spanish? Vicino. How about German? Nachbar. And then if I see that there is a gap, let's say that I'm doing this, and while I check all these languages, I figure out that I don't know how to say neighbor and Finnish. I go ahead and look it up, so that yeah, I don't mix them up. Let's see. As for Indonesian, I wanted to learn a Polynesian language. I've dabbled in Hawaiian, Tagalog, and Indonesian. I decided I like Indonesian best, and I'm learning it. You know what? Yeah, I also dabbled with Indonesian. Saya juga bahasa ini bahasa Indonesia. Um, saya tidak bisa berbicara bahasa Indonesia dengan uh, bagus, dengan uh, baik. So yeah, I was saying that yeah, I also like Indonesian, but I don't speak it very well. But when I was in Siberia, that was a fun story. I was in Siberia, it was minus 30 degrees, and then I met a girl from, and initially I thought she was from Thailand. I was told she was Thai, and I started talking to her in Thai, and she was shaking her head, and I thought, yeah, my Thai is not that bad. Why can't she understand me? Well, it turns out that she was from Thailand. Sorry, from Indonesia, from Bali, obviously. Yeah, not from Thailand, from Indonesia. And yeah, and I managed to speak some Indonesian with her, and that was actually pretty nice, because at that time I was really down, was really depressed, and I didn't want to study any languages, and just having this small interaction with a human being, with another fellow human being, I got really uh, motivated to not it well, I shouldn't say I got really motivated, because after that I didn't do anything, but it was a reminder, it was a small reminder that it's really worthwhile learning languages. Um, eu não conheço você pessoalmente, mas eu gostaria de dizer que te admiro muito. Grato pela resposta. Porra, Éder, muito, muito obrigado pelo comentário. Fico muito feliz de ler mensagens assim. E, Éder, de onde você é, onde você mora, quem sabe um dia nos encontramos pessoalmente. Quem sabe? I also used Indonesian to try out the mass sentence method popularized by Glossica, but I also studied the sentences in vocabulary. I'm having a lot of success with the method. Yeah, I'm really glad to read that. I'm very happy to see that people enjoy using vocabulary. Yes. And how was the mass sentence method? How, yeah. What do you think of it? I'm a big fan of the mass sentence method. I I well personally I've used it to study several languages. The only thing that I wish they had was the keywords because and not only the sentences. So I would like to have both the keyword and sentence because the moment I see a keyword in isolation with any other data, just the word, just the raw word, I find it easier to spot it afterwards in sentences. I find it easier to pay attention to that word and then later retain it. Can you mention the idea of tonal languages? Can you mention the idea? I don't really understand the question. Oh, can you also help me understand the many languages of China? I'm not in any way or fashion. I'm not a specialist in tonal languages, but yeah, I've studied some Chinese, and yeah, I speak Thai to a certain degree. Well, at least when I was in Thailand, I met it. I was able to yeah to solve all the problems I had on a daily basis just using Thai. Like when I got really sick and I had to go to the hospital every single day. Yeah, I was speaking Thai, and I at some point I wish I didn't speak Thai because one day I was doing a test and no, I got I had a yeah I had an incident with a spider. Yeah, a spider. Yeah, and the the doctor was trying to figure out whether the spider was venomous or not, and the doctor had to leave the room, and then two um, yeah, that day was crazy. Two nurses came in and they were talking Thai to each other. And like in Thailand, most foreigners don't speak. I think 99% of foreigners don't speak any Thai. So they thought, yeah, this guy probably doesn't speak any Thai either. So they just started talking to each other about me and about me, my leg, and um, and they were like, yeah, I don't know if we should give him this shot or this shot. Yeah, I'm not really sure, but maybe we can go with this shot. And then, once I heard them saying this, I said, no, 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 no. Yeah, please make sure you know which shot you're going to give me. And yeah, so, um, but yeah, so I totally digressed. So the question was, how about tonal language, right? Uh, one guy who was really great, who was really good with tonal languages, uh, and he's also a good friend of mine, uh, Vlad Skulteti from Slovakia. Uh, we talked about this many times, and I think the most important thing that people should realize about tonal language is that the tones are not as important as people think they are. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. The tones are important, but they are not as important as one would think because even if like in any other language like English, Portuguese, they have words that sound exact the same but have different meanings, right? So, and that's the same with Thai, with Vietnamese, with Chinese. Yes, you do have all these homonyms. Homonyms are words that sound the same, but context is king. So even if, for example, if I say in English, I I would like to eat melon instead of saying watermelon. If I say I would like to eat melon, and I'm holding a watermelon, you'll figure out that I'm talking about watermelon, not about something else. There are some cases in which if you mix up the tones that can cause problems, like In Chinese, you have my, which means to buy, and my, which means to sell. And yes, that can cause problems. But the thing is that if you, I think something that I figured out only later when learning Thai, mastering, or not really mastering, but yeah, nailing down how to pronounce, how to accurately pronounce the consonants and the vowels, especially the vowels, is usually more important than nailing down 100% the tones. So it's not sufficient to pronounce the tones accurately if your consonants and your vowels are off. So you have to make sure that you also learn how to pronounce the consonants and the vowels accurately. And I would even go ahead and say that this is probably even more important than the tones. Now, this doesn't mean that tones are not important, but I don't think they are as important as people pretend they are. Cases drive me crazy in Russian. Have any tips that could help? Steve, yes, cases. Okay, so when learning cases, we have to deal with two things, right? So one is learning when to use the cases, and the second aspect of cases is actually the endings, right? So you have the accusative case, then you need to use, and you have a masculine word, then you have to use this particular ending. So before talking about the second aspect, you have to make sure that you understand when to use the case, when to use the accusative case, when to use the dative case, and so don't worry too much about the endings per se. Try to understand and get a feeling for when you have to use each of the cases. Now, if you have done that already, yeah, then yeah, maybe we can talk about learning how to learn the endings, the declensions. Okay. What do you do? Well, yeah, I work with languages, Vitor. That's what I do. Eu moro em Arthur Nogueira, São Paulo, atualmente, próximo a Olambra, uma cidade holandesa também conhecida como Cidade das Flores. Eu também estudo outros idiomas. Que legal, Éder. Muito legal mesmo. Tá aí uma cidade que eu adoraria conhecer, a cidade holandesa. Misschien kan ik daar een beetje Nederlands praten. As, maybe I can speak some Dutch there. Éder, você sabe se as pessoas falam holandês nessa cidade? Quando que a imigração holandesa para essa cidade ocorreu? So Eder here is saying that he lives next to a Dutch city here in São Paulo. Actually, I didn't even know that there was a Dutch city in São Paulo. I think 3 years ago, I saw a group on Facebook, Dutch people in Brazil, and they mentioned the city. But before that, I never knew that there was a Dutch city in São Paulo. That would be pretty interesting to visit it. Now, not well. Now I'm in Brazil. I'm visiting my parents. So yeah, while I'm down here, it will be pretty interesting. It'll be pretty cool to go down to this city and maybe even speak some Netherlands. Okay, let's see here. When I first started learning Indonesian using the mass sentence method, I couldn't remember anything until I also memorized all the words within the sentences, but only in the beginning. I think it's fun trying to guess as much grammar as I can from a list of sentences and then explicitly learn. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I do too. I think that the best way to learn grammar, and this is something that people often ask me, yeah, how do I learn grammar? is to see many sentences and look for patterns, right? So, for example, if you see I apple eat, I to school go, at some point you will think, wow, wait a moment, why do they put the verbs in the end of the sentence? I think, and so if you ask this question and then you look up an explanation online and you do see, yes, in this particular language they put the verbs in the end of the sentence. I think I find it much easier to retain that piece of information, that particular grammar point, than reading it without having the prior experience of um, seeing this grammar point in the wild, as I normally say. So yes, I totally agree that it's much more effective to first see look look for patterns, and once you have a concrete question, why is it so that in Indonesian they repeat words, right? Then you look up an explanation, and you will have a better chance of retaining the the grammar rule. Master the consonants and vowels more than the tones in the total language. Yeah, exactly. I just spent 2 months mastering Northern Vietnamese pronunciation, and I ignored tones at first. I think that's the way to go. Uh, and how is it going with Vietnamese? Because I 3 years ago I went to Vietnam, and obviously I tried to learn some Vietnamese before going there. But yeah, just like Steve Kaufman said in one of his videos, Vietnamese is a tough language, and you need to dedicate a bit more time if you want to, even if you want to, to ask where the bathroom is. You need to invest some time in nailing down not only the pronunciation, but yeah, Vietnamese is a tough language. But I love the way how it sounds. I didn't get very far. I didn't even get to yeah, I mean, I started studying Vietnamese a week before going there. I have probably I think I studied, yeah, maybe 100 words, and then I tried to use those when I was in Vietnam. I didn't get very far, but it was fun. It was fun to say a couple words here and there in Vietnamese when I was in Vietnam. Do you know anything about German grammar? Yes. Well, in fact, ich spreche Deutsch, und ich muss auch sagen, dass die deutsche Sprache eine sehr schwierige Grammatik hat. Yes, I do speak German, and I have to say that German has a rather complex grammar. But yes, I do think I do know one thing or two about German grammar. Yes. So yeah, if you have any questions about German grammar, please let me know. What do you think? Oh, what do you? Okay, here's the question. What do you think of it? Easy or difficult? Uh, well, everything is very relative, right? Is Indonesian easy? Well, I don't think so. In fact, what makes Indonesian hard is the fact that it's easy, which is very counterintuitive, right? But what I mean by that is, or for example, Chinese. Many people say, yeah, Chinese doesn't have grammar. Chinese grammar is really easy. But the minute you get past uh, those very basic structures, like I want to eat, I want to learn Chinese, or excuse me, do you speak Chinese? Yeah, once you get past those sentences where you only have uh, subject, verb, object, things start getting really complicated in Chinese. But now, answering your question, German grammar. The thing I like the most about German grammar is that it's um, it's very well organized. So especially word order, right? Usually the first verb is in the second position of the sentence. Then you have another verb at the end of the sentence. And I think um, because it's so strict, it's easier to structure your thoughts in German than in many other languages. So German grammar has a lot of patterns that have to be learned or have to be acquired. Uh, and but having said that, I don't think that German grammar is particularly difficult. Once you acquire these patterns, I find it relatively easy to structure sentences in German. I mean, again, don't get me wrong. German grammar is not easy, but compared to some other European languages, I find it yeah easier than, for instance, the grammar you will find in Slavic languages, or even the grammar you will find in Romance language. With the subjunctive, and I mean in German you have the conjunctive, but I find it a bit easier than using the subjunctive in Romance language. So all in all, to sum it up, I think that in German, the moment you get how the word order works and you get a grasp, uh, you get a basic understanding of the case system, you're good to go. Um, I miss your channel. Oh, yes, yes, I missed you too, and here I am. A imigração ocorreu em 14 de junho de 1948. Wow. O nome Olambra. Okay, so the Dutch migration to Brazil took place in 1948. I didn't know that. Okay, and well, now it begs the question. So why did it move to Brazil? That's pretty interesting. Let's see here. My work schedule changed last week, so I put Vietnamese on hold temporarily. Yeah, I started using the 50 language app, aka Book2. I use that too. I use that too. Yeah, the German one, right? And think it's not too difficult now that I can pronounce it. Yeah, I also think that it's much easier to retain words if after uh, getting a solid foundation of the knowledge of the language you're studying. Um, so you know, um, I would even dare to say that over 90% of um, one's ability to retain words in a foreign language has to do with this person either knowing or not knowing, or how well they know the phonology of the language. Obviously, when I say how well they know the phonology, I don't necessarily mean on a conscious level, but yeah, once you internalize the sounds of the language, it gets much easier to it gets much easier to learn and memorize and acquire new vocabulary. Hello, I'm from Russia. Привет тебе. Привет, привет. Из России. А откуда из России? Я say something Russian, please. Хорошо, ну да, я могу что-нибудь сказать на русском. Я провел полгода в России в этом году, несмотря на то, что границы были закрыты. а, я Я попал в Россию, правда, не по той причине. Я бы хотел, конечно, хотел поехать в Россию, а, потому что там, не знаю, там есть интересные дела или приезд к друзьям в гости. Но в этом году я поехал в Россию, потому что я поехал на лечение. Но, тем не менее, я очень рад, что я это сделал, потому что я сейчас чувствую себя гораздо лучше, чем в феврале, когда я поехал в Россию. Так что я очень благодарен российским врачам. Well, let me just translate what I said. So I was asked to say something in Russian, and I said that earlier this year I went to Russia, and yeah, I spent 6 months in Russia. I wish I went there for a different reason, but yeah, I went there um, to get medical treatment, and well, I'm really glad that I did get my treatment, and now I'm feeling much better. So I'm very grateful uh, to yeah the wonderful Russian doctors that I met in Novosibirsk. Okay, I'm starting Kazakh. Wow, the language of Kazakhstan. But I knew that if you speak Russian, these kind. You know what? Yeah, indeed. If you speak Russian, you can speak Russian in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, in Armenia, Georgia, and, all these countries. Even when I went to Estonia, I heard Russian everywhere in the capital city. I mean, obviously, if you go to a city like Narva, which is very close to the border with Russia, you will hear Russian. But even in the capital, even in Tallinn, you hear Russian everywhere. It's amazing, even in the supermarket. And obviously, um, you can go. Obviously, Russian will be extremely helpful. You can go a long way speaking Russian in these countries, but I I I totally support you in your pursuit of learning the local language, in this case, Kazakh. The way how people treat you once you speak their native language it changes. Like when I was in Estonia, um, unfortunately I didn't speak any Estonian back then, but then later um, I studied some Estonian, and I met some Estonians in Thailand. And it's funny because especially with these small languages, the minute you start speaking the language, uh, you create a bond with the person, a bond that would otherwise be very difficult to create only using English. Um, so yeah, I totally support you in this pursuit of studying Kazakh. And yeah, please let me know how it goes. I'll be interested in. I'm looking forward to hearing more from you. Geralmente nos restaurantes, uau, são muito, geralmente nos restaurantes, estufas de flores ou até mesmo nos pontos turísticos da cidade. O próximo ano, provavelmente teremos um evento que ocorre anualmente, Expo Flora, oportunidade para praticar. Que legal! Éder, você fala holandês? Spreek Nederlands? En als ik naar Olambra ga, spreken ze Nederlands of een dialect? So do they speak, yeah, Dutch, or is it a dialect? Because I know that in the south of Brazil, there are huge German communities, but they don't really speak Hochdeutsch, right? They don't speak standard German. I mean, some of them do speak standard German, but this is only because they studied it at school. Um, but at home they speak some other Germanic dialects, which is also pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting to see that here in Brazil we managed to keep some German dialects that have disappeared in Germany. So yeah, part of the heritage has been kept here in Brazil, part of this German. heritage has been kept here in Brazil. Um, I've said that German is difficult in the beginning and then gets easier. While other yeah, I totally agree with this. Yeah, so here, German is difficult in the beginning and then gets easier, while other languages start easy and then get more difficult. I totally agree. I think that there are some languages in which you can get out of the ground relatively quickly. You can reach a conversational level rather quickly, but then you reach this plateau, and then it's really hard to overcome it. And yeah, I totally agree. I think that German is difficult in the beginning because you have to get used to word order. You have to get used to uh, um, the cases. If you're coming from English, for example, and you're not really used to cases, yeah, it takes some time it takes some time to wrap your head around the case system, but then it gets easier with time. How many languages do you speak? That's a good question. Back in the day, I was, if you had asked me this question 2 years ago, I would probably say, yeah, 10 languages that I feel confident that I can, hold a conversation, and maybe other five that are almost there, but yeah, I still have to study to take them to a conversational level. But unfortunately, over the last 2 years, I haven't spent much time on language learning. So yeah, many of those languages that in which I was confident, I am no longer. Yeah, I'm a bit rusty now. Well, these languages are a bit rusty now, but hopefully I will get back to them in the near future. Я из Ростова-на-Дону, а вы откуда? Я из Бразилии, я из Сан-Паулу. Я сейчас у родителей, я сейчас в Сан-Паулу. А так, я был в России уже 4 раза. Я был в Москве, в Питере, в Самаре, в Казани, в Владимире, в этом самом, где еще, в Иркутске, в Томске. Так что да, я был во многих городах в России. Да, был на Алтае, но, к сожалению, я еще не был на юге, да, там, на, ну, я бы очень хотел посетить Кавказ, Кавказы, то есть там а, не Ростов, конечно, еще Краснодар. Кстати, я был в Краснодаре, но наоборот, я был в Красноярске, хотел бы поехать в Краснодар. Вот, и что еще? Конечно, Сочи. Ну, короче, все эти города, которые на юге. Thanks a lot, man. Yeah, thank you for thank you for coming and sharing your own experience. En ik spreek een beetje, ze spreekt Nederlands. De baas van mijn vader is een echt Nederlander. Ik ben 2 jaar een student. Ja, goed. Ja, dan moet ik dit jaar naar Hollanden gaan om een beetje Nederlands te praten. En ik hoop dat we in Hollanden iets samen kunnen doen. Yeah, I hope we can meet up in Hollanda and do something there and speak some Dutch. That'll be really. My goal is to speak 10 languages in the coming years. Tell me, how did you learn Russian at the beginning? Was it difficult? Yes, Russian was. I think I could do an entire video only talking about my experience with Russian. because yeah, it's Russian is not it's not an easy test, right? But this is definitely one of my favorite languages. Um, I see now that I've been talking for about an hour, so maybe it's time to go. But yeah, if you guys want, we can continue this conversation later this week, and yeah, we can talk about my journey learning Russian, and not only Russian, but other languages as well. Uh, Tell us, how is your progress in Hebrew? Are you still learning? Yeah, so Hebrew, right? So Hebrew was this funny language learning experiment I did a couple of years ago. I was going to the to the polyglot gathering in Slovakia, and I knew that I would have the chance to meet many other fellow polyglots. And back then, the only non-Indo-European language I knew was Finnish, and I wanted to know what it feels like to learn another non-Indo-European language. So I gave Hebrew a go, but I didn't continue. But I do intend to get back to Hebrew at some point in the future. כי אני אוהב עברית. אני Wow, it's been such a long time. My Hebrew is essentially gone. What was it again? I think אני חושב, right? Yeah, אני חושב שהשפה הזאת, uh, how do you say? My Hebrew is gone. As you can see, my Hebrew is gone. But yeah, I would definitely like to get back to it. My friend Fabricio actually managed to learn Hebrew to a very decent level, and yeah, maybe I will get back to Hebrew at some point because I like it very much. I really like the way how these three consonant roots work. Um, I find it very ingenious the way how they form words in Hebrew, and I also love the fact that they managed to revive a language that was not spoken. That I find it amazing the fact that they were able to revive a language that was not spoken for over what wait yeah almost 2,000 years, right? So ja. Je bent altijd welkom. Ik hoop dat je snel naar Brazilië komt. Wel, eigenlijk ben ik op dit moment in São Paulo. Ik ben in Brazilië. Dus ja, Holambra is niet ver van São Paulo. Dus misschien volgende maand kan ik komen. Als je wilt, kan je me een privaat berichtje schrijven. En ja, we kunnen in Holambra iets samen doen. Wow, yeah, my Dutch is also pretty rusty. I haven't spoken any Dutch for such a long time. Echt, dat wist ik niet. Ja, ik ben in Brazilië op dit moment. What about Thai, Luca? Lucas, are you still studying? Yes, Thai ผมพูดภาษาไทยได้นะครับเพราะว่าผมอยู่ที่ประเทศไทยประมาณ3 ปีครับผมก็เลยพูดภาษาไทยได้ So yeah, I was saying that yes, I do speak Thai. I'm not studying Thai actively, but this is a language that I speak, and I like it very much. And really, when I speak Thai, it almost feels like I'm meditating with the tones and the intonation and the way how Thai people talk. Usually it's in a very soft and calm way. So speaking Thai calms me down. I like this. I like this language very much. This is also something that we can talk about on another live. another live streaming. We can talk about my language journey, studying all these languages: Thai, Russian, Finnish, Hebrew. Where we can do another session just to talk about these languages. But now I've been talking for over an hour, so I guess it's time to go. Once again, thank you very much for uh, coming in, and I will talk to you guys soon, maybe in other languages. By the way, if there are questions I haven't, um, oh, Eliseu, extra, że wróciłeś, tak, Eliseu, tak, jestem teraz tu z wami. Dzisiaj nie rozmawialiśmy po polsku. Nie wiem, o której przyjechałeś, ale teraz jesteś tutaj z nami, ale niestety już muszę pójść, ale może następnym razem będziemy gadać trochę po polsku. I was saying that yes, was nice to talk to all of you guys. Oh, sorry, in Polish, I was saying that it was nice to see Eliseu. Eliseu and I had a very nice conversation the other day. Uh, Eliseu is also one of the reasons why I'm back here. He motivated me to um, come back to YouTube. He was one of you who told me, yeah, you don't have to wait until you feel 80%, 90%. So Eliseu, dziękuję bardzo. Thank you very much. And that's it. Thank you, thank you. And I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, all of you. And well, bye. I will talk to you guys later this week. Bye for now.